Welcome to Secrets for an Inspirational Life with Mimi Novic, the place where every heart tells its story. Whether it's inspiration, courage or hope you need, you've come to the right place. Sit back and enjoy the journey with us. Subscribe below to be sure you don't miss future episodes.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Secrets for an Inspirational Life. How are you all today? I hope that you are well. I hope there's some beautiful moments alighting your life. And I hope that you are meeting like-minded souls. That's something that is very important, I believe, to be around the people that actually celebrate our presence in their life. Too many moments, I think, are wasted on being around the people that really don't resonate on our frequency, as they say. And when we have the right people around us, everything in our life changes. And there are always reasons why we meet everyone. There is no such thing as a coincidence. So with that in mind, let's keep our hearts open, our minds open, and always embrace the opportunity to meet someone, because you never know who may change our life. Now, I am very happy to welcome Jonathan Niziol, who is all the way from the United States. Jonathan is a prominent international model, boasting affiliations with prestigious agencies and collaborations, as well as being a wellness advocate. He is on a mission, and that mission is to ignite change, foster connections, and promote wellness and positivity. After an idyllic childhood on a Canadian farm, his world turned upside down when his mother passed away tragically on his 21st birthday. What should have been a flourishing career as a lacrosse player spiraled into years of alcohol addiction, culminating in a near-death hospital stay at the age of 25. This wake-up call prompted him to rebuild his physical and mental health and find ways to cope with his mother's loss. Motivated by his mother's modelling legacy, Jonathan embarked on a modelling career while battling his own issues. Perfectionism led him to body dysmorphia and a serious eating disorder. He also faced a series of traumatic events that led him to the depths of crippling depression and anxiety. That then led to drug addiction as a coping mechanism. In 2017, he sought therapy, breaking free from his addictions after 15 years. Today, Jonathan has turned his life around. As I mentioned, he is a successful international model working around the world for global brands such as Men's Health Editorial, Hugo Boss, and Jockey Underwear. Today, he shares his amazing journey. Welcome, dear Jonathan.
Thank you very much for having me. That was a fantastic intro. I really appreciate that. But yes, thank you again for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And how are you today?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Like you said, I'm coming to you from the United States. Right now, I'm in Texas, but I'm originally from Canada. But it's a nice spring day here in Texas, so I am not complaining. How are you?
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, it's the springtime in the United Kingdom. It's beautiful because it is very green. And I know that you've been here, and you will, I don't know what time of year that you came, but it is really quite something in the springtime.
Yeah, I was there in the fall, so it was quite something else.
Yeah, so you'll have to come in the spring.
It was quite gray.
Yes. That's another story completely.
Yeah.
But Thank you, Jonathan, really. Your life seems to have been filled with many adventure, many a turmoil. Like most people's stories, there's
Mhm.
always ups and downs,
Of course.
and every life is in its own incredible moment at any given time. But let's go back to the beginning because I know you do all these amazing things now, but it wasn't always like that. And tell us a little bit about how it all began.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, I grew up on a 500-acre cattle farm outside of Toronto, and it was a wonderful upbringing. I learned a lot of great lessons growing up on a farm, like hard work, discipline, very loving family and parents, and yeah, I wouldn't take it back for anything. It was a time where I was disconnected technologically. I mean, it didn't exist or anything like that. So, instead of buying me a Nintendo, my parents were like, just go outside and like go fall out of a tree or do something, go build something or just do something.
Mm.
So I love that. I would go, walk into the woods for 5, 6 hours with my dogs and just go walk into the fields and they were okay. And I come back, it was a very, very wonderful way to grow up. Always been an athlete. Lacrosse and hockey have always been my two main sports, but played many sports growing up. And then, like you said, things changed a lot. It was actually just the day before my 21st birthday that my mom passed away very suddenly and very unexpectedly. And that shook my world to the core, as you can imagine. My mom
Mm.
was my best friend, my biggest cheerleader, she wasn't very, very subtle at, you know, saying that or showing that I was her favorite child.
Yeah.
You could say, but yeah, it really did shake my whole thing, my whole world to the core. And I started to, like you said, deal with mental health issues. And I wasn't sure. I never dealt with those before, thankfully. But when I did, this is 21 years ago, I didn't I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was dealing with. It wasn't talked about the way it is now. And I think that's a wonderful thing about what we're doing in this conversation and what is happening in general, where mental health is being talked about. I just thought I was going crazy. I just thought I was losing it.
Yeah.
And it yeah, it was just a matter of getting diagnosed with, clinical depression and severe anxiety and panic disorder and self-harm. And I started to get medicated from a doctor, and that helped a bit with some SSRIs. But self-medication is a path that I chose, and it's kind of a reoccurring theme in my life. But yeah, that led me to becoming an alcoholic, really pretty severe alcoholic, and that, like you said, and it thankfully, I'm very lucky because I got a very bad case of acute pancreatitis when I was 25, and I spent a month in the hospital, had to have 5 blood transfusions. I lost 60 pounds in the month and 40 pounds in the first 2 weeks, and almost died twice. And yeah, that really gave me a much better appreciation for my body and life in general. So yeah, it's kind of where it all starts.
It's always, I hear from people that have had these near death experiences, it's a completely different world once someone experiences such a state of being, because you're never quite the same again. You look at the world with completely different eyes, and in a way, it's dying before you're dying. And, you know, to reach that state gives you a completely different, I believe, view on everything and a deeper understanding. Did you find that, Jonathan?
I absolutely did. I've I've heard both. I've heard that from people, and I've heard people who just go right back to doing what they were doing before that put them in that situation. For
Mm,
me,
mm.
and I, I respect everybody, it's not an easy thing to do, and I don't think I'm any better or different than any either of those people. But for me, it was very much a going from, I'm 25, I'm invincible, nothing's going to bother me, blah, blah, blah. And then, oh, like being faced with my own mortality is very much, I mean, no pun intended, it's very sobering. And realizing that our bodies are wonderful, incredible gifts that we're all given. You know, granted, we're given health, and it's very important to take better care of. And like I said, I was very lucky to have gone through that because I couldn't stop drinking on my own. I knew I was an alcoholic. My world was falling down around me. Everything was happening, but I didn't have the willpower or the determination or I just couldn't break it. I couldn't do it. It had me in its grips, and I would have died an alcoholic soon after if I hadn't gotten sick. So I'm very thankful that happened. And yes, I looked at the world very, very differently after that.
And how long after that did you give up the alcohol and the drugs?
The alcohol immediately. As soon as I came out of the hospital,
Uh-huh.
I never haven't touched a sip of alcohol since. So it's been over 16 years, just less than 17, but I don't know exactly. But yeah,
Hmm.
16 years since I had a sip of alcohol. I never will again have a sip of alcohol because I know where that goes.
Yeah.
And, but the drugs thing was a bit harder for me because I never, I never understood or dealt with why I was drinking. I just got sober all of a sudden. And I understand there are programs and all the kinds of stuff. And I didn't do that. I just, like I said, I got sick and I got sober. So I still had all this trauma of my mom passing away and didn't know how to deal with it or channel it. And I had many what I call distractions, whether it was fitness or, traveling for modeling was a distraction. Some of them were positive distractions. A lot of them were negative distractions. As you mentioned, the eating disorder. I think that was a
Mm.
way of trying to gain control or have a sense of control and just not feel my feelings, to be
Yeah.
honest. When I'd go out and have a very productive day and I'd eat all my healthy meals, I always say I was a functioning bulimic because I'd eat all my healthy meals. I would, do all this and I'd come home. And then I had to be alone in those four walls, it was when, oh, I can't feel my feelings. I need something. And that's definitely a reoccurring theme. So after a while, I started smoking a lot of weed or a lot of marijuana again. I'd done so in college, but kind of put it past me. It just wasn't my thing anymore. But again, with all these traumas and stuff, once I decided to stop traveling for modeling and take a break so I could start my own fitness business and get a dog and just kind of, be in one place more than I was traveling out, living out of a suitcase.
Mm.
I found that the distraction of traveling was gone now, and I was coming back to the same four walls. And that's when I was like, okay, well, I can't feel my feelings because I don't have the tools to deal with and cope with and understand these feelings. So yeah, then it went on to drugs from there.
Now, a lot of people these days have eating disorders, more so than ever before. And I think they're more recognized now than they ever have been. I think they were around, for many, many years before. But now, as you said at the beginning, people are more open to talking about it. And this, this feeling of, which is a contradiction in terms in a way, of feeling numb is or was the bulimia something that relieved that feeling?
Yes. Yes, it definitely was. Like I said, it was a distraction. I was also I was also living on a very strict diet at the time.
Hmm.
Sorry, I had to pause for a second. I had to mute myself because I had to sneeze. Excuse me. Um, I was very restrictive diet, and I was doing that on my own because of the pressures being put on me by modeling, and also the pressures that I was putting on myself for, like you said, the body dysmorphia.
Mm.
And it was just an escape. It was a sense of escape, and then it was immediately a sense of regret from what I was doing. But if I've understood now and learned that, first of all, whenever I talk about food or I talk to like my clients and stuff like that, I don't use the word cheat as in like a cheat meal, because cheating
Mm.
implies you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to satisfy your cravings and to just live your life and to, enjoy your life.
Very
Sorry,
true.
I was
Very,
just
very true.
sneezing again.
Ah, bless
But
you.
yeah, I think it's very important to
Yeah.
live your life and enjoy your life. And if you have a craving for something, then satisfy it. And I eat very healthy, but if I feel like eating something, then I'll eat it. It's just I don't eat it every single day, and I've gotten used to eating very healthy, but also enjoying what I eat. I've gone through phases when I was just eating boiled chicken and boiled vegetables for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that was not fun. But
No, no. That
it's
doesn't
balanced.
sound any fun whatsoever.
No,
Funnily enough, I was talking to a lady today, and she works on a farm. Well, actually, she owns the farm, and then they have. It made me think now of you and your story of growing up on a farm, and she was actually talking about this very point where I said, "Oh." She said, I haven't eaten. I said, Oh, what are you going to eat? She said, Oh, my husband is a very good cook and he makes me eat what he wants me to eat.
oh,
So I sort of, yeah. And I looked at her and I didn't say anything at that moment. I thought, what do I say? Because she was looking for an answer from me
right.
or some sort of a reaction. So I said, Oh, I said, well, could you not have like a little snack? And she said, Well, like what? And then I said, Crisps,
Mm,
and I know it's not the best, but why not? Life's too short. And
yeah.
she said, Oh, I would love some crisps, but my husband won't let me eat crisps.
Oh,
And I remember thinking in that moment, I said, Oh dear. And I didn't carry the conversation on. And usually I would,
mhm.
but she was so sorrowful in her eyes, and I didn't have time to stop um, at that moment. And I thought to myself, my goodness, how many of us are like that in many ways, where somehow we feel that we can't be free, whether
Yeah.
that's peer pressure, whether that's social pressure or people around us. And I wonder, because I know you're a mental health advocate, in how much there is, I suppose, influence of outside influences that affect mental health more so than actually what is within us, but more so what the influences are of the outside world.
I think it's massive. I think especially this day and age, it's massive because of social media and because of
Mm.
the comparison. Whereas, before we knew a small group of people, and there was always keeping up with the Joneses. There was always that like
Yeah,
that in us too, or whomever. But it was a very small thing. But we open up Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and we are inundated by the perfect body from somebody who's across the world, and it's like, or a 23-year-old with a Lamborghini, or whatever. It's like
yeah.
we're inundated with these things that are just thrown in our face. And I've learned that for myself, I need to work very hard to protect my safe space, which is my mental, my head, my brain, my
Mm.
feeling good about myself. I found if there's something or somebody that I see online or was following that didn't make me feel good, then I wish them the best, obviously. Like, but I can't be a part of it. I can't have that. So, can you hear that
Now,
noise in the background?
no, is that your
Okay, good.
dog?
Yes, I just want to make sure she's chewing on something, and I want to make sure because I was going to move her to a different room, but
No,
yeah,
no.
just want to make sure. Okay.
Oh dear. Um, Going back to all these things that have happened to you
Hmm.
and all of these different turmoils that you have been through, which are really, really quite serious. When I know that we're speaking about it very easily here, but I have to say, these are very, very deep things that you have conquered.
Hmm.
What,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking here of, the body dysmorphia, we're talking of the eating disorder, we're talking of the depression, the anxiety. it's quite miraculous that here we are talking, and that you have survived. How did you do this? It's remarkable.
It's interesting you say that because I haven't looked at it that way for most of my life because it's just life. But in speaking with people and recounting the things that I've done and the situations that I've been in, I've started to see that myself the more that people have told me that. And I think a lot of it has to do with, like I said, going back to being on the farm. And like we're talking about beforehand, we're talking about how cold it gets in Canada. And growing up on the farm, you have chores. And the chores have to be done whether you feel like doing them or not, because these animals rely on you. And I was the only son. So my father and I ran the farm, but he also had an architectural design business. So he would be going away for a business trip and it's minus 40 and the cows need hay and I have to go do it. It's dark, it's 9 o'clock at night, whatever. It had to be done. Or in the summertime, it's a beautiful day and my friends are up at their
Yeah.
cottages, they're swimming, and we've got to clean the barn for 2 days or go out and do hay for 14 hours a day for 3 days. It's that mentality that was instilled in me. And when I decided finally to go to therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and just one-on-one therapy, I decided that, okay, this is going to be hard. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be because it got super hard. But
Mm.
I just said it's not going to beat me. It's with that same mentality, like roll up my sleeves, get to work. It's not going to beat me. And I've been extremely lucky in other instances with drinking and taking too many drugs and that kind of stuff that I've luckily gotten through those and almost overdosing and that kind of thing. But I think it's that mentality. It's definitely that mentality that I harken back on, and I guess I found myself again and channeled that and said, it's not going to beat me. I mean, there were dozens of times where I thought, okay, I just can't do it anymore. Like I can't, this is too much. I mean, I'm done. And then little something inside of me would just be like, that's not the way you are. You're not done. Keep going. And I'm very glad that I did. But I think that's the best way I can answer it. I mean, luck and hard work and determination and persistence.
Uh, I I am really in awe at the fact that you have made such a remarkable recovery, and you should really give yourself credit and do it more often, because
Thank you.
it's a huge um, challenge for people on a daily basis to want to even keep living without all of these things that have happened to you, but especially these things that have happened to you, that you have been able to ride through it. I really do think that you need to tap yourself on the back at least a few times a day and say, well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. I really do appreciate that. I'm the kind of person that I'm a regular dude who's just trying to do life. And yeah, but I do really appreciate that.
Really, sincerely, it's fantastic. And now, moving on to today, what are you doing today? Because I know that there are so many things with the modeling that you do, and the mental health work, and being a personal trainer. How did you? I know the modeling was something to do with your mum, wasn't it? It was your mum's legacy that led you to a modeling career. But how did you get into the mental health, helping other people?
So yes, the modeling. My mom was a model in the late 70s and early 80s. And when I got sober and went back to playing lacrosse, and then I had a career-ending knee injury, I thought, oh, maybe I'll try some modeling. And then I've been doing it ever since. It's been about 15 years now. And with regards to the mental health stuff, I've only
Mm.
been able to talk about what I've been talking about with you within the last, I'd say 15 months. And when I was in 2017, when I went to my therapist, I didn't tell
Mhm.
her, I never mentioned at all, ever to her, that I had an eating disorder because I mean, that's embarrassing. That's not manly. Like that's, I thought that I'd just take that to my grave. I also, when I was on a casting in Miami, experienced being sexually assaulted by a designer, and I never thought that I would tell anybody that either. But I finally gotten to a point now where I've come to forgive myself, and what I mean by that is that
That's an
so
interesting line.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
it is, and it's it's many years of after sobriety and stuff like that. It's a very recent, genuine forgiveness. And what I mean by that is, on one hand, I forgive myself for the mistakes or the choices that I made that probably weren't the best choices. Choosing self-medication with alcohol and drug addiction and stuff like that. I forgive myself because I was doing my best at the time with the tools that I had. I can look back and I can genuinely say that, hey, you know what? You were doing your best, man. Like, was it the greatest? No, but I came out of it with, life lessons. And do I wish I had the time back? Well, I can't get time back. I wish I had the money back though, because holy moly,
Yeah.
so much money. But I genuinely forgive myself because, like I said, I didn't have the tools at the time, and that's okay. And then for the other things that have happened to me that are out of my control, like my mom passing away and like the sexual assault, and I forgive myself for those things because those are unfortunate facts of life, and I can't do anything about them one way or the other. So I've really come to a place of forgiveness, and I can finally look in the mirror and be proud of myself and be proud of the person who I am. I wouldn't be the person that I am today without having gone through all those things. So I wouldn't take them back for anything. If I could go back to 21-year-old Jonathan, and I've been asked this a number of times on podcasts and stuff, and I think about it a lot. And if I could go back and, what would you tell yourself? What would you say? What advice would you give 21-year-old Jonathan? Having just lost his mom, what would you say? And I would
Mm.
say, look, it's going to be a long time. It's going to be hard, but just know that you're going to get through it and keep fighting. I wouldn't say don't drink. I wouldn't say don't do drugs. I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say any of that stuff. I wouldn't take any of that back because I needed all of that. And I would just say you're going to get through it, because there are years and so many times where I was like, I'm never going to get through this. I had resigned to the fact that I'm going to be an alcoholic the rest of my life. Okay, I got through that. I'm going to have an eating disorder the rest of my life. Okay, I got through that. I'm going to be a drug addict the rest of my life. I'd resigned to the fact that all these things. And yeah, I would just go back. I would just say that, stick with it and don't give up, because you are going to get through it. Because, man, I didn't think I was going to get through it, but thankfully I did. So,
But you did. And I wanted to ask you actually, was there a pivotal point when you decided to confront all of this darkness? Because there must have been something that
oh yeah.
triggered. And what was it?
Yeah, so it was my final drug addiction that I had. I had like 4 substances that I was addicted to, and the final one was because I was having bad experiences, well, really bad experiences, but enough so with the first 3 that I was like, okay, I'm done with these. And I was always pretty good with the fact that I would stay with mostly like baseline drugs. The last substance that I was addicted to were muscle relaxers, and they consisted of 500 milligrams of methocarbamol. That's the active muscle releasing uh, the drug, and then 200 milligrams of ibuprofen in each pill. And when I do something, I do it all the way. If I'm going to be a lacrosse player, I'm going to be a professional lacrosse player. If I'm going to drink, I'm going to be an alcoholic. Like if I do something, I'm going to do it all the way. And I
Yeah.
got to a point very quickly where I was taking 100 pills every single day. Every day I was ingesting 50,000 milligrams of methocarbamol and 20,000 milligrams of ibuprofen every single day, and did that for months and months on end. And I mean, I barely got
I
through
can't
it.
believe that you're alive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was one time actually, there was another version. They didn't have the one that I needed. And there was another version that was methocarbamol and acetaminophen, which is Tylenol or paracetamol, I think you guys saw over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I got those, and I would just get home and I would just put a handful of 20 or 30 of them in my mouth and just swallow them down. And I was talking to a doctor recently, and I almost died. Like, that should have killed me, because you can't ingest that much of anything. The fact that my body was allowing me to ingest that much ibuprofen was, it was one thing, but have just, the shock to the system. I passed out. I woke up in a bed full of vomit, and like, just, I did the rest of the day. I didn't take the rest of those pills, but the next day I went back and got the other ones. So I finally got to the point where I was noticing, with all my addictions, I was noticing that my body was changing. I had no energy, and I knew exactly what it was. I knew it was the drugs, and it had caused a major and a huge ulcer. I had major internal bleeding from an intestinal ulcer, and it was to the point where, okay, either I graduate to the next level of drugs and start going to, prescription medications and things of that nature, or I need to do something else drastic. And that was finally go to therapy, because for years it was, I'm not going to go to therapy. That's for wimps. And I'm not going to go have somebody sit there and judge me for the things that I've done. Or I could never find the time. I mean, I found all the time for drugs, and I never had the money. Therapy is too expensive. I mean, I had more than enough money for drugs. But I finally said that enough is enough. I've been doing this for 15 years. This whole distraction thing, I've been doing it for 15 years, and it's not working. I need to do something very drastically different. And I chose to go that path.
It's remarkable, because there must have been an outside force. I would like to think that those that we love, that pass on, are somewhere looking after us. And I do believe, listening to your story, that there definitely is somebody somewhere looking after you, because to be able to live through all of that is a miracle.
I couldn't agree more. I know for a fact my mom had a lot to do with the reason why I've gotten through what I've
Mm.
gotten through. When I was in the hospital with pancreatitis, they said, we don't understand. You're like a medical anomaly, because the severity of pancreatitis that you have is what we see in people who are in their 70s and 80s, and they've been drinking since they were like 15. We don't know how you got this sick. People your age, they might get pancreatitis. They come in for a day or two, and then they're good to go. They're fine. But you were going to die. Like, you were going to die if you didn't get in here within 48 hours, or, you almost died twice while you're in here. And the same thing
Mm.
with the acetaminophen, and the same thing with a number of different times where, I was having fainting spells. I would wake up in
Mm.
a pool,
Mm.
like, crack my head open, wake up in a pool of blood. My dog's licking my face. And I'm just like, yeah, so many things. And I wholeheartedly believe that, there's somebody, there are many people up there. I lost three people who were best friends as well. One
Mm.
event, he took his own life. The other had a car accident, and then the other one, she had an undiagnosed heart condition. But I genuinely, absolutely believe that, and I try and live my life for me, but for them also. Um,
Yeah.
just try and do the best at living my life, and being, working on being a better person and being a good person, and always trying to learn and grow for myself, but also for those who are not with us anymore, and looking out for me.
I definitely believe that love is eternal. And we are a testimony to that. And for all those loved ones that have left us, that love is still there. And that love is actually what binds our hearts together beyond this world. And I'm also a great believer that one day we will reunite. So
Mhm.
when we finally reunite with those loved ones that have left this earth, we've got to show them something worthwhile. We don't want to be letting them down,
Mhm.
you know,
Agreed.
and it is for that love that we carry on, isn't it?
It is very much so. Yes, that's very, very well put. You're absolutely right.
Because when you meet your mum and all those other people that you love, you want to show that you've actually done something
Mhm.
and to make them proud. And I'm sure that your mum and all these people, I'm convinced of this, are looking after you because there is no way you could have survived such huge things without some form of grace.
Yes. No, it's absolutely, like I said, there's, yeah, it has to be. There's no way it's not.
Now, how do you now put this, Jonathan, into your work? This, I suppose, these profound, you can put it that way, experiences. What is your mission now with your life?
I just want to help make the world a better place. And I know it's cliche and I know it's whatever, but that's just what I want to do. And I know when I was at my lowest of lows, I thought I was alone. I thought people hadn't felt this way. I thought people didn't get through this. And, I'm still working on it every day. I'm still trying to grow and learn. And I don't by any means think I have it all figured out. I mean, when I was
Mm.
18, I thought I had it all figured out. Like I was,
Yeah,
the
we all
typical
do.
18-year-old. Yeah, right. I
Yeah.
mean, you had a question, I had the answer. But I just want to now share my story and share my journey as I continue on, and in hopes that it reaches one or two people at a time, or however many people. And like I said, I stand by who I am as a person and who I've become as a result of these things, and I'm proud of them. I've come to realize that vulnerability is power, as opposed to shame, which I thought it was for many, many years. I thought, this is just shame that I'll carry with me, and this weight on my shoulders that I'll carry with me and take to the grave. But yeah, that's just not what I want to do. And I want to continue to help that. And like I said, to continue to learn. And I love having conversations like this with you, and when people reach out, because I learn and grow and understand, and we're just sharing and just trying to help our fellow human being.
And you have such an experience now. You can teach the people of, you know, the fact that there is hope. It doesn't matter what situation people are, for example, out there in the world that will listen to this podcast. There is hope, even in the most tragic of circumstances. There is still hope. And I like what you said, that there is a power in your vulnerability. I
Mhm.
love that line. What does that line mean actually for you?
It means that, for years, like I said, I carried around these shames and I wouldn't dare talk about them because I thought everybody's going to look at me differently and judge me differently. So for instance, I said I play hockey. I still play a lot of hockey 4 times a week, 4 different teams. I love playing hockey and going to the gym and just being active. I thought if people knew, my secrets, they'd look at me differently. So the first time
Mhm.
I had put anything out, mental health or my past wise, like on social media, I thought, okay, well, next time I go to the gym, like everybody's gonna be looking at me and be like, oh, there's the guy that's all messed up, and all the guys like been, through all the stuff. But it was quite the opposite. Like when I walked back into the locker room and I walked back into the gym, I had people coming up to me and be like, "Hey man, that took a lot of guts." And I really appreciate hearing that because I'm dealing with some stuff now, or just you know, thanks for being
Mm.
vulnerable. I know somebody's going through some stuff, and for years people looked at me and they thought, "Oh man, there's Jonathan Niziol. There's the international model, and he's great shape and drives a cool Jeep, and he's got it all figured out." And I would go home and I would not. I would just. I wasn't that person. I wasn't who they thought I was. That was the mask. That was just the exterior. On the inside, I felt like I was completely broken and completely just a fraud. And now I can look at and say that I am who I am, and whatever people think of me, that's up to them. It's none of my business. But I now know who I am, and the inside matches the outside for me. And yeah, that's what I mean by. I think that's what I mean by vulnerability. It's power. It's relinquishing that literal weight that you feel on you, carrying around these secrets and shames because you're afraid of what people are going to think. My dad didn't know. My family, like, nobody knew. Nobody knew all these things,
Mm.
and they're just like, "Man, we thought you had it all together. Like, we had no idea you were dealing with all that." Like, people I'd see on a regular basis, and go to shoots, and I've been on the cover of over 150 romance novels as the hero of the story. And
Mm.
almost the whole time that I was doing that, I was, going home and sitting by myself with my dog and just doing drugs all night. And then coming back and, shooting the hero thing and just barely getting through, like, surviving life, let alone thriving. But here I was on the cover, and people, millions of people around the world are reading books with my face and my body on it, and they're picturing me as this hero, and I was nothing of the sort. But yeah, it's interesting to look back at it now. I still have a bunch of them in my bookshelf here, just to
Have
maybe
you?
show my kids one day how cool their dad used to be. I guess I had to have kids first, but yeah.
um, I think it's such a taboo subject for so many people, mental health. But when you finally open up, in fact, open that Pandora's box and let all of those things out, it must be such a huge relief. And also for people to know that it doesn't matter what someone looks like, it doesn't matter what they're wearing, what sort of persona they're presenting. The reality can be completely different. And that's why we never really know what someone is going through.
Never judge a book by its cover. That's why I
No.
always say, I mean, you can
Yeah.
never. And I think everybody deserves your respect, whether it's the person who delivers your
Yes.
food, the person who's
Yes.
checking you out of the grocery store, whether it's the person you work for, owns the company. I don't care. Everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody's a
Yes.
somebody. There's no such thing as a nobody in my life. And everybody gets the same amount of respect from me, whatever, given their situation, because you do not know what people have gone through or
You
what they're
don't.
going through. You don't know who's
Yes.
having that day like
Yeah.
I had when my mom passed away. And I thought, why is McDonald's open? Why is everybody moving around? Stop. Like, don't you understand what just happened? My life as I know it has ended. Like,
Yeah.
stop. And
Yes.
the world just goes on. And that was a big, I mean, that opened my eyes to say that you don't know. And then traveling too, you end up in a, different city, New York, London, Miami, and they're just tens of millions of people there just trying to live their lives and just trying to get through life. And yeah, it's interesting, but it's a very important thing to do.
It's very important because this is where humanity becomes real. With all this, as you mentioned earlier, the social media where everyone looks so happy and they're on holiday all the time
Hmm.
and they're doing this and they're doing that and they're on this beach or that place or that place. But a lot of it is not even real, and that's not real
Yes.
life. And
Yep.
the point is that somehow we have lost the ability to be human. And to be human is for you to say, for example, you know what? Today, actually, I'm feeling crap. I
Mhm.
don't feel good. And I don't feel good about myself. What do you think? But people have lost that rawness. And if you, Jonathan, and can come and speak about it, it actually adds more to humanity. You're actually helping people to speak out, because once you've shone the light, it's no longer dark.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I'm just trying to do my part. That's why I love what you're doing with this platform. That's why I greatly appreciate being given the opportunity to come on this platform and to share my story with your listeners and to have a conversation with you. I'm going to take a lot from this, but I think it's a very important thing. You're right. All that glitters is not gold. Just remember that. I mean, everything
Yeah.
we see is not, it's not, and there's never been a perfect person that's walked this earth, and there never will be a perfect person. So show yourself the same grace that we show others. And,
Yes.
when we
Yes.
make mistakes, just let it slide. Let's take the lesson from it. When something awful happens in your life, just know that everything happens for a reason and feel your feelings. Don't ignore it. Take your time, feel your emotions, but look back and say, why did that happen? What is the learning experience here? What am I supposed to take from this and go forward with? And we just have to keep moving forward. And that's the only way we can do it. But helping each other. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is it's a very, things that have been very become, I think, a bit more selfish because, you open your iPhone and it's customized just the way you want it. And you go to whatever restaurant and they make it your way and you call your bank and they're like, hey, Mr. Niziol, how are you today? It's very easy to think the world revolves around you in today's society, but it doesn't. And we're all just trying to make it. And let's lend a hand as opposed to turning up our noses.
Beautifully put. And it's a good reminder for me as well about so many things that you've spoken about today, Jonathan, that it is reminding us, because we can never forget, to be more human, to be more compassionate, to be more loving, and to know that every single person has suffered or is suffering. And that in itself, we should try and help each other. We should try to open our hearts and our souls to actually being genuine with someone, even if it's for 5 minutes. As you said, the delivery driver, the postman, whoever it is, even if it's for a fragment of a moment, just to feel that connection again.
That's that's so true because one of my favorite things in just day-to-day life is having a nice, brief, pleasant interaction with a stranger. Whether
Yeah.
it's, just holding the door for somebody and saying, "Wow, that's a beautiful baby. How old's your baby?" And okay, have a wonderful day. Or, going through the checkout line and just saying, "Hey, how's your day going today? Like, how's work so far? Is it going to be a long day? Is it going to be whatever?" Just those kinds of things. Or,
Yes.
being in traffic and getting cut off and being like, hey man, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're not a good driver, but maybe they're really good at doing taxes or something that I'm not good at, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just I love those interactions. Those are, yeah, they make me the happiest. And for years I was miserable and I loved misery loves company. So I
Oh,
was
absolutely, it does. Yes.
all this stuff was happening around me. I was like, why me? Why is this happening to me?
Mm.
And then I realized, oh, I'm the nucleus. It's because I'm putting this out there. And
Yeah.
now it's looking at the world, and I'd rather bring people up to the way I feel as opposed to trying to bring them down to the way that I felt. So
Yes.
yes, you're absolutely right. Is yes, more of those, and they're wonderful. It just
Yeah.
takes it makes your day better. It takes other, I had an incident the other day where I had road rage. This guy was following me, and I'm not one to shy away from an altercation if it happens to get to that point. So I
Mhm.
I pulled over and I thought, okay, I need to see what this guy, like, what's going on here. I didn't cut him off or anything. So I pull over and I get out and I'm getting ready to go to the gym. So I got my tank top on and he comes up and he's like, "Oh, geez, I think I picked the wrong guy." But I got out with the mentality of, I just need to figure out what's going on with this guy. I figured I need to figure out
Mm.
like what happened and like, if for some reason it does get physical, then okay, I can protect myself. But turns out that he was having a hard time. He's been drinking a bit too much. He's got a wonderful family. This is the first time he's ever done anything like this. We had a nice conversation. I said, "I get it, man." He's like, you don't have any struggles. You got out and you're this tall, handsome guy. I was like, "Man, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I just went down the list quickly of the things that I dealt with." He's like,
Mm.
"You serious?" And yeah, I was like, I showed him a picture of what I looked like before. And at the end of it, he's like, "Do you mind if I take a picture of you?" And I was like, "Why don't we take a picture together? Why don't we just have a nice, like, take a selfie
Oh,
together?" And he's like, "Man, I don't know if you believe in God or whatever, but he's like, I think there's a reason why I met you because,"
yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, by the way, thanks for not beating me up." Because as soon as I saw you get out, I was like, "Oh, geez, I'm in
yeah.
trouble." But I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on? It's a beautiful day. What happened? Why are you so?" And he's like, the speed limit's you should be going faster." I'm like,
Mm.
"I'm not in a rush." And we had a nice 20-minute long conversation and I talked about, and like I said, we took that picture together and his wife reached out to me on Facebook and said, I've heard a lot of the stuff that you've been through and, I apologize for the way my husband acted. And I was like, "Don't apologize. I made a friend that day." I mean, that was a wonderful interaction for both of us. I wouldn't, I was a great, that was a great way to start my day because it was a very genuine interaction that was started in a very negative connotation and could have gone very negative, but it ended up in, both of us smiling with our arms around each other, taking a selfie. So it was, yeah, it was just a couple weeks ago. It was fantastic.
I'm smiling all the way through because this is fantastic. I love these stories.
Yeah.
And this is it because you took the time to respect another human being. And that's the key also. When we respect other people the same way that we respect ourselves, that's where it comes from. However, we respect ourselves is how we respect others.
Yes, very much so. And I recognized what he was doing. I mean, when I was an alcoholic, when I was miserable, I was going around with the same, like I said, the same energy, and I was,
Yeah.
trying to cut people off and throwing change at people on the highway, doing, incredibly irresponsible and dangerous stuff. But I
Mm.
was in a very horrible place. So I recognized it and I thought to myself, I just need to know. Like I don't want to leave this as like he goes his way and I go my way. And, I was like, I want to confront this person and see what's going on. And yeah, I'm very glad that I did. So you're
I
very
think
right.
it's
It's just
brilliant. And
respect.
keep doing it, Jonathan. Keep doing it because
Thank
these
you.
stories are amazing. There's very quickly, I'll tell you, maybe you've seen it on one of the social media sites. And there's a guy, he's an Italian guy, I think, and he goes all around Italy and he stops people, and they're very interesting people. So he will stop an elderly gentleman, an elderly lady, a young man, a young woman, someone with a child, and he will say to them something like, you know, you're looking very beautiful today. And you can see their face completely changes. Tell me what is the most amazing thing that you've done in your life, for example. And people actually stop and think, and you can see their eyes sort of looking up at the sky, really concentrating, and they will share literally in that 5 minutes something about their life. And
Mhm.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. That is very beautiful. It's yeah, it's wonderful. It's like you said, you
I
never
think
know who
it's
you're walking,
wonderful.
who we're brushing shoulders with, who we're walking around with, who's done what, or who's lived through what, or who,
Yeah,
and taking the time. And it's why I always love to, and I work really hard on learning and remembering people's names because
yeah,
calling somebody by name and saying hi
mm,
to them and that means a lot to people. That really means a lot to people.
yes.
And it's a respect factor that I want to learn their name and I want to show them the respect by using their names.
I
And
believe in that as well. I
yes.
really make an effort to remember a name. It's really hard for me sometimes, but I really do it because even when I see a neighbor, I will say that person's name.
Hmm.
I just won't
Definitely.
say hi. I will refer to them as their name because that's a whole identity, as you said. It's a respect, and people do really flourish when you respect them.
They do. And there's a quote, I don't know the exact quote, but a book that I really enjoy and I always recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think
Oh,
if
yes, I
everybody,
read that.
oh, it's wonderful. I think if everybody in the world read that,
Mm,
the world would be a much better place. But one of the things they talk about that Dale Carnegie talks about, and it was written in the 1930s, but it's as valid today about society as it was written
mm.
as the day that it was written. Society doesn't change it. Like the things around us change. But the one thing he says is learn people's names. The sweetest
Yes,
word in the English or whatever language to somebody is their name,
yes.
is their own name.
Mm.
And I read that and I was like, oh yeah. And I'll do and I forget sometimes, of course. And word association, I'll try and like whatever, however but yes, it's very true. And you see that very different and there's a very different connection in that deeper connection of respect that we're talking about when it's hey Jim, how was your day today? Oh,
Yeah.
good, thanks. And instead of just, hey you, how's it going? It really does make
Yeah,
a
I don't
difference.
like when people say to me, "Hey, what
Yeah,
what does that actually mean?" I like to be referred to um as Mimi, as my name. That's
right.
who I am.
Yeah,
And somehow referring to someone as the person that they are is actually welcoming them in a
very
way.
much. Very much so. Very much so. And the next time somebody does say, "Hey is for horses," are you talking to me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
No,
good.
it's
Yeah,
it's true.
absolutely agree with that.
It's very true. I don't
It
like
is
saying
very true.
I always people make fun of me just because it's I don't know, it's something I do, but if I don't hear somebody, I always say pardon. Like pardon?
Yeah.
And it's a bit different wherever you go and they're like, why don't you just say what? I'm like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right
That's
to me.
so
I'd
rude.
rather say pardon. Like,
Yeah.
pardon? I didn't hear you. They're like,
I say I'm sorry. Sorry.
yeah,
What
yeah.
was that?
Instead of like, huh? Huh? And of course, I mean, we're all not perfect sometimes, but
Mm.
huh? What? So,
It's arrogant. It's arrogant. And people have become like that, unfortunately, in that we all do things that, you know, can irritate other people. But
of
I
course.
think we all have that capacity to be irritated and to be
Mhm.
irritable ourselves. But it's just the small things. My grandfather used to say, if you want to know somebody, look at the small things that they do.
Yes,
And that is one of the best pieces of advice ever because you can really tell the person what they're like in the small intricacies of what they do. And it's important in what everything we do, if we do it really with a genuine affection, it totally changes the outcome.
yeah, it's true. It's very true. Yesterday was, I mean, I had no patience for anybody yesterday because it was Mother's Day and it's a hard day for me. And I went to the gym and I saw my buddy who I always, work out with, and he was 5 minutes late. Not a big deal. But I'm like, I was irritated at that. And I was irritated this, irritated that. And then I had to go back and say, hey, listen, sorry guys, it's Mother's Day and it's not a great day for me. And they're like, we get it. We totally get it. And we all have our bad days.
Mm.
We all have our days. But you're right. It's there was another thing too. So if you want to like get to know your partner or get to know somebody, it's see how they treat other people, especially like wait staff or cashiers or people
Yeah.
with, you know, just just other people. And
Mm.
that'll really tell you everything you need to know about them and how they're going to treat you and how,
Mm. Mm.
about them as a person. Is see how they treat other people.
That's so true. I
Yeah.
always look at how people um talk to other people, how they behave with other people, and also how they talk about other people, because
Yes.
how they're talking about those people is how they're going to be talking about you.
Yes. Yeah. I had to check one of my friends recently because
Mm-hmm.
he had a comment about so many things that were going on in the gym and people in the gym and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, well, why are you even concerning yourself with these things or, making these comments about these people? Like, what is this gaining for you or what's going on here? Like, move past it. And I would never put myself above anybody. Like we talked about before, there's no such
Mm.
thing as a nobody. I don't care what your job title is. I don't care how big your muscles are. I don't care how many zeros you have in your bank account. I don't care what any of that stuff. I don't care any of that stuff. It's how you treat other people that really matters to me. And then also how you treat yourself. That's self-love is
Yes,
a big thing.
yeah. Because
That's often.
if you're not looking after yourself, you can't look after anybody else. It's impossible.
No, no, it
If
is.
you
It's
weren't
very
now
true.
looking after yourself, you couldn't look after your dog.
No.
Let's put it on really simple terms. But
Mm-hmm.
how could you do it? You wouldn't be coming out talking about all of your experiences if you didn't actually have respect for yourself.
No, definitely not. Not at all. Not at all.
So,
Not in the slightest.
yeah, so it all begins with us and it all ends with us.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. I think we need to be the best person we can for ourselves first and
Yes.
foremost.
Yeah.
Second, for the
Yeah.
people that are closest to us. And then
Mhm.
third, for society and the world at large is trying to be the best person you can for those people in that order. And that will just radiate positivity and goodness. And yeah, just do our part.
That's it in a nutshell, because people say to me, all these things, catastrophes that are happening in the world, and, we've got to do something, we've got to do something. And this is my belief, people are entitled to, think and feel what they would like to think and feel. But my belief is we can't change the world unless we change ourselves. And let's us do something positive in our environment. Like you said, with the people closest to us, it begins there. If we want to change globally, we individually have to change.
Yes, it's very true. It's like, but then it's like, oh, what difference do I make? Well, a big difference. There's a huge ripple effect. And
Absolutely.
it starts with, like you said, and what can I do? Exactly. All you can do is try your best to be the best person that you can be
Yeah.
and then put that out there. I mean, there's of course, GoFundMe's and all kinds of charity. But as far as, what it really comes back to the basics of that, about what you said. And yeah, that's the world and that's life. That's yeah, it's very well put.
Yeah. Because let's do something, however small, that will change someone's life. Firstly, that will change our life so that we are far more peaceful, far more satisfied, and then we can be of use to change other people's worlds. We can't change anything that's going on out there on a global scale. But look, you've come on today, you've shared your story, and imagine how many people out there now that hear this story, even if it changes one person's life. They say if you save one life, it's as if you've saved the world.
Yeah, it's all worth it. No, that's all I,
It's all worth it.
yep.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's really been a fantastic talk. And I want to say, really, that you are remarkable, that you have survived, and that you are sharing this wisdom with everyone. You really should be proud of yourself.
Thank you, Mimi. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and also what you're doing and have been doing and continue to do is very important. And I applaud you. And keep up the good work. Let's
Oh,
keep
thank
doing our
you so
part.
much. Thank you. Now, what was, if I may know, what was your mum's name?
Glenda
Glenda.
Niziol.
I
Mhm.
think we'll dedicate this episode to her
Absolutely, I love that.
because it's something I think that through her strength behind you, in effect, you know, she's the wind beneath your wings, as they say. So I think we should dedicate this episode for Glenda.
Sounds fantastic.
And very quickly, because I know you have to go, for people who want to find out more about you, about your work, where can they do that?
I'm on all the socials,
Mhm,
as most people are these days. Instagram,
mhm,
TikTok, and YouTube is just my name, Jonathan Niziol, Niziol.
mhm.
And my website and my Facebook page are Jonathan Niziol Official. And like I said before, I love connecting with people. I love doing podcasts like this and then having people reach out and continuing the conversation. I continue to learn so much from people who send me direct messages, and just love to, like I said, continue the conversation. So I'd love to hear from other people and to keep connecting with other people.
Wonderful. I wish you a good rest of the day. It's day there, isn't it, where you are?
Sure is. It's just after 2 o'clock. Nice sunny day in Texas.
Oh, we're approaching the evening here in London. So I wish you all the very best in all your endeavors. And thank you again for coming on and sharing a moment of your life.
Thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful evening and all the best to you as well in all of your endeavors. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. Okay, take care, Jonathan.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye bye. Jonathan Niziol. Extraordinary, really. What a story. And one that is a reminder to all of us that if we need help, again, to reach out. It is something that shows our strength. Thank you again for your fantastic support. I really, truly appreciate it. And thank you for joining me and my truly wonderful guests. It is remarkable. Go and live your lives. Enjoy every moment. Do something different. Feel alive. Until next time, look after yourselves and lots of love.
Thank you for listening to Secrets for an Inspirational Life, brought to you by your host, Mimi Novic. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, and see you in the next episode. For more information about Mimi Novic and her books, music, and inspirational work, take a look at her website, www.miminovic.co.uk.